Even future Hall of Famers and very capable role players make mind-boggling mistakes that are remembered in NBA lore. Some of them are excusable, but many of these gaffes remain unbelievable 10 or even 20 years later. Let's take a look at the biggest mistakes in NBA history. Patrick Ewing misses a layup in Game 7. You can still hear Knicks fans crying for Patrick Ewing to just dunk the ball 25 years later. In Game 7 of the 1995 Eastern Conference second round, Ewing's Knicks trailed the Indiana Pacers by 2 points with 5 seconds on the clock. The Knicks then put their season in the hands of Ewing. The Knicks big man took an inbound pass from Harper, faked past Derek McKay, and spun right around Antonio Davis on his way to the hoop. Suddenly, the lane parted like the Red Sea. Ewing dribbled once, took off from just inside the free throw line, and lofted a soft scoop shot towards the rim. With both teams watching in awe, the buzzer sounded as Ewing's layup was in the air. Somehow, Ewing missed. The ball bounced sharply off the back of the iron and fell into the Pacers' hands, preserving a 97-95 Indiana victory and a 4-3 Pacers series win. The miss still follows Ewing to this day. Nick Anderson misses 4 straight free throws in the clutch. There's no way that missed free throws don't still haunt Nick Anderson. Anderson and the Orlando Magic were as in control as a team could hope for late in Game 1 of the NBA Finals on June 7, 1995. The Magic led the then-defending NBA champion Houston Rockets 110-107, with 8.5 seconds left after a foul by Robert Horry sent Anderson, a 70.4% free throw shooter, to the free throw line. One make, and the game, barring any miracles, would be over. Attempt number 1 missed short of the front of the rim. Attempt number 2 was another miss, short again. But Anderson grabbed his own rebound and drew another foul, this time on Clyde Drexler, which sent him back to the line for 2 more shots with 7.9 seconds on the clock. Unbelievably, attempt number 3 was yet another miss from Anderson, as the ball bounced high off the back of the rim. Prior to his 4th missed free throw in a row, Anderson's nerves took over, and he rushed his routine. After the 4th miss, which bounced off the back iron, the Rockets grabbed the rebound and called timeout with 5.6 seconds remaining. On the Rockets' ensuing possession, Kenny Smith sank a clutch three-pointer to tie the score at 100 and sent the game into overtime. Despite leading by as much as 20 points and possessing a lead with seconds remaining in regulation, the Magic dropped Game 1 to the Rockets 120-118. Derek Harper dribbles out clock and tied playoff game. The 43-win Mavericks were fighting an uphill battle against the 54-win Lakers, who were led by Magic Johnson and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar in the 1984 Western Conference semifinals. But they had a chance to even the series 2-2 in Game 4. With the game tied at 108 with 12 seconds left, the Mavericks took possession after Kareem Abdul-Jabbar misfired on a turnaround jumper from the baseline. Rolando Blackman cleared the glass and passed to Dale Ellis, who hit Harper on the left wing. The stage was set for Dallas to get the last shot and potentially steal Game 4. Only Harper didn't know that the game was tied. In his mind, the Mavericks were in the lead, so Harper ended up dribbling out the clock and then went into a celebratory sprint towards Dallas's bench. It didn't last long, as his teammates and coaches stared at him in disbelief. Instead of potentially sinking a game-winning shot, the Mavs gifted Magic and Kareem another chance in overtime, one they took full advantage of. The Lakers outscored the Mavs 14-7 in overtime, taking Game 4 and grabbing a commanding 3-1 lead in the series. Los Angeles went on to win Game 5, and the series a few days later, leaving Harper to think about his blunder in the final moments of Game 4 all summer long. Hornets defend a wrong hoop. A mid-March regular season game in 2013 between the lottery-bound New Orleans Hornets and sub-500 Los Angeles Lakers shouldn't have been memorable, but because of the Hornets' incredible gaffe in the closing moments of the 4th quarter, it became exactly that. With 25 seconds left in regulation, the Hornets had already choked away what was once a 25-point advantage, and their lead stood at just 2 points. Still, the Hornets needed just one stop to win the game. Coming out of a timeout, the Lakers opted against advancing the ball to half court and instead inbounded it in front of their basket. In what proved to be a really smart move, Los Angeles bunched together like they were trying to run a play and score on that end of the floor, which for some reason confused the Hornets even though New Orleans had just spent 23+ minutes defending the other basket. All 5 Hornets players took the bait and started shading towards the wrong hoop. The Lakers got the ball inbounded to Kobe Bryant, who sprinted towards the other end of the floor where the Hornets should have been defending, and Steve Blake hit him in stride. Bryant converted as the Hornets looked at each other in disbelief. Bryant's dunk put the Lakers up by 4 points with just over 20 seconds remaining, which was more than enough of a cushion against the Hornets, who didn't deserve to win a game the rest of the season after this embarrassing blunder. J.R. Smith forgets to score in the NBA Finals. Out of all of J.R. Smith's career blunders, his gaffe in the final moments of Game 1 of the 2018 NBA Finals may have been his most costly. Smith's Cleveland Cavaliers entered the series as massive underdogs against the juggernaut Golden State Warriors, just as they should have been. Led by LeBron James, Cleveland finished 4th in the East, but had the NBA's second-worst defense during the regular season. After a Stephen Curry basket put the Warriors up by 1 point with 23 seconds left in regulation, James found a cutting George Hill, who was fouled by Klay Thompson and sent to the free throw line. Hill hit the first to tie the score, but he missed the second. For a moment, Smith looked like he'd become the hero of an improbable Cavs Game 1 win. He somehow snagged the rebound over Kevin Durant with 4 seconds left on the clock, but instead of immediately shooting the ball from where he caught it 5 feet away from the basket, Smith dribbled it out to near half court with the game tied as the final seconds came off the clock. James pleaded for the ball and eventually just tried to point Smith in the right direction. But by then, all Smith could do was hurry a pass to Hill. There wasn't enough time to even get a desperation shot up. In overtime, the Warriors outscored the Cavs 17-7, as Cleveland wasted a brilliant 51-point performance from James. It would be LeBron's last playoff series as a Cavalier, too. Golden State swept, and James signed with the Los Angeles Lakers a month later. Isiah Thomas doesn't take timeout, throws lazy pass. After years of reigning over the Eastern Conference, the Detroit Pistons finally had the Boston Celtics on the ropes in 1987. The Pistons were rounding into their final bad boys form, and they had a chance to deliver the knockout punch on Larry Bird, Kevin McHale, and the mighty Celtics. On the heels of consecutive double-digit victories to even up the conference finals at 2 wins apiece, the Pistons had Game 5 within their grasp ahead of Game 6 on their home floor. But first, they had to seal the victory, which it looked like they would do after a foul line jumper from Isiah Thomas gave Detroit a 1-point lead with 17 seconds remaining. The Celtics let Bird isolate on Rick Mahorn on their next possession, and as Bird drove baseline, a leaping Dennis Rodman erased his layup attempt, and Mahorn chased the ball down in time to tap it off a Boston player before it went out of bounds. Detroit then took possession deep in its own end of the floor with only 5 seconds left. Thomas was the Pistons' inbounder and rushed to inbound the ball after spotting Bill Laimbeer by himself under the basket that Detroit was defending. But Thomas floated the pass, and Bird flew in for the steal. Bird then whipped a pass to a cutting Dennis Johnson for the game-winning layup. Thomas later tipped his cap to Bird, calling it probably one of the most incredible plays that's ever happened against me. The Celtics went on to win the series in 7 games and advanced to their 4th straight NBA Finals. Josh Howard calls timeout too early. The 2006 NBA Finals were knotted at 2-2, and if the Miami Heat couldn't find a path to victory in Game 5, they would have needed back-to-back victories on the Dallas Mavericks' home floor to win the series. But then Josh Howard signaled for a timeout. After Dirk Nowitzki hit a 19-footer with 9.1 seconds left in overtime, Dallas held a 1-point lead. Miami put the ball in Dwayne Wade's hands, and he got to the free throw line after a foul was called on Nowitzki. Wade hit the first, and shortly after, the Mavericks coaches signaled for their players to call a timeout after the second free throw. But Howard jumped the gun, signaling for a timeout not once, but twice, and walking toward the bench after Wade's first free throw. After the referees huddled up, they determined they had to give the Mavericks the timeout that they had signaled for, which was their last one of the game. Even though Dallas's coaches tried to tell the officials, Howard didn't mean to call it. Wade hit the second free throw to put Miami up 1, and since Dallas couldn't advance the ball by calling a timeout, the best look Devin Harris could get off was an errant 50-foot attempt from beyond half court. It missed, and the Mavs then lost Game 6 on their home floor, giving the Heat their first title in franchise history. Karl Malone stripped by Michael Jordan in the finals. Karl Malone never got the better of Michael Jordan in any of their NBA Finals meetings, but in 1998, Malone nearly did, with the Bulls trailing the Jazz by 3 points with 40 seconds remaining in Game 6 of the '98 Finals. Jordan drove to the basket right past Byron Russell and converted a layup to trim Utah's lead to 1 point. Then on the Jazz's next possession, John Stockton found Malone in his sweet spot, right on the left block. But as Malone caught the ball and began to go to work in the post, Jordan came over on the baseline, double-teamed Malone, and stripped the ball out of the mailman's hands. With the clock winding down, Jordan crossed the half-court line with 18 seconds left in the game, and the Jazz on the cusp of forcing a Game 7. Jordan dribbled the ball on the left wing, drove hard to his right, got Russell off balance, and then sank the game-winning jump shot. Push-off or not, it's one of, if not the most iconic shots in NBA history. With 5.2 seconds remaining, Utah was suddenly trailing by 1. Stockton's three-pointer clanked off the iron, and Jordan and the Bulls won their 6th championship. It was as close as Malone ever got to a ring.